Are you a solo creative business owner who is struggling to stay on track with their projects? If so, you're not alone, and you're probably already aware that it's really important to effectively plan your projects so they don't just run smoothly, but you can also achieve your business goals. So if that sounds like something you need a little more of in your creative business life, then keep on listening, because I'm going to share some of the tips and strategies I use as a creative solo business owner who is trying to get my project from beginning to fruition and do it without losing my mind. So let's look at those tips and strategies. Hey there, planner friend. I am Chloe, and I'm the owner and creator behind this channel, as well as my small creative business that I run by myself called Keshinomi, as well as doing this YouTube channel, Planning with Chloe, and a weekly newsletter on Substack, also called Planning with Chloe. So I'm juggling quite a lot of different projects, and they are all self-led projects. And I think this is probably one of the most challenging things that I face as a solo business owner, who is not just the person producing the work, producing the final project, but I'm also the client as well, who has to hold myself accountable and define the scope for the product and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that can feel pretty overwhelming at times. But that is why I became a bit of a planning fanatic, shall we say. It's not something I really thought was for me a few years back, until I realised that actually I'm not achieving what I want to achieve in my business, and I don't feel like I'm making progress. Perhaps I should invest in a planner. And I've shared before my first journey into using a planner. There were quite a few failures. I wasn't quite using the right tool for the job for me that suited me. But also I just thought, well, if I buy a planner, that's going to fix my problem. I didn't realise that the problem was I needed to develop the habit. But anyway, that is a whole other episode, and I've touched on it in previous episodes, so do check out the rest of the videos in the channel. But safe to say, I did get onto the planning wagon, as it were. I developed the habit of using the planner, and I slowly started to add different elements into it. And one thing that I've added is something that helps me to plan projects. It's literally like a little fill in the blank guide that hand holds me from start to finish to get my project from an idea in my head to a completed thing that I can launch on my website, or an article that I can have written, so on and so forth. So in this episode, what I want to share is maybe like a 4-step cheat sheet, and there may or may not be a cheat sheet at the end, so keep watching or listening, depending on if you're tuning in via the podcast or you're tuning in via the YouTube channel. But yeah, I'm going to share my little routine that I like to use for getting my projects done, because the alternative, let me tell you, it's not great. Feeling like you're constantly struggling to stay on track with your projects, that you're falling behind, that you're not getting the right things done, that sucks. And when you feel like, oh, I suck, my business sucks, what am I doing, this project sucks, it's just, yeah, zaps all of your motivation. But if you have a bit of a routine that you can follow and you have a plan in place, that just makes life feel so much easier. Take some of that cognitive resource away of having to think about what am I meant to be doing today. You can just turn to your planner, you've already thought about it, and you've got a routine to follow. It's brilliant. So let's have a look. This is kind of a bit of a, I guess, project planning 101 for creatives. And as I said before, it's a 4-step process. Now, I do use an insert in my planner that is kind of like this fill in the blank scenario, which just makes it a lot easier. But for this video, I just want to share 4 simple checkpoint steps that if you do this, do this, do this, and also do this, like, I think step 4 is probably the most important step that gets missed. It's maybe not the most important step in the entire process, but it's the one that gets missed that is really important not to miss it. So step 1, define your project. I know it sounds kind of obvious, but the problem is when you're a solo creative business owner who is essentially their own client, holding themselves accountable, you're also the one who is coming up with the project idea. And I know for me, as someone who's a bit of a multi-passionate creative, I'm always bubbling with ideas. I could do this, I could make that, I could design this, I could create that, I could sell this, and I just have all of these ideas constantly flying around in my head like these little beautiful butterflies. But because there's so many of them, it makes it really hard to focus on just one to pick to follow through on. So by defining the scope of a project, an idea that you want to bring to fruition, it's like, sounds kind of cruel, capturing a butterfly into a net so you can observe its beauty. Yeah, that sounds kind of mean, but you get the point that I'm trying to make, that by trying to look at all of those beautiful butterflies fluttering in the air, you're just going to see all of this amazing fluttery colour, and you're not going to be able to really enjoy the beauty and the patterns of just one singular butterfly. And that's kind of like our projects nailed down. Oh my gosh, it's getting even worse. This butterfly analogy, I should have scripted that one out a bit more. We are not pinning any butterflies down, but we are pinning our idea down in terms of having a scope that we can define our project goals. We can have that big picture end point in view. This is the end thing that I want to have, that I know once I have it, my project is complete. For me at the moment, I'm supposed to be working on my 2024 inserts, and one of them is the monthly calendar inserts. So my project scope would be to update all of my 2023 monthly inserts to 2024. At the end of it, I know this project is going to be complete because I am going to have a product fully finished, listed on my website. And then I'll get to that bit. I'm rushing ahead. I'm too excited. So we'll stop there. But just having that clearly defined goal that you're aiming for, this is the thing that we're going to head towards. We're going to aim our energy towards that. That's going to help you stay more focused and stay on track. And, if it ain't written down, it ain't getting done. If it ain't scheduled in, it ain't getting done. It's that kind of idea that we want to follow through with. Like, if you've written it down, you've made a plan, it's halfway to becoming real, kind of. You still got to put the work in, sorry. Step 2, and this is where I was kind of about to rush ahead, but step 2 is create an action plan. And this is where, once we've got that end goal in sight, so for me, it is to have that 2024 monthly insert listed on my website. From there, I can begin with that and work backwards. Well, what would be the step before that in order to get to that point? Well, I would need to have written my product description. I would have needed to create the product images. So that means I'm going to need my Photoshop, and you can start to map back each step. So if the final step is, say, step 12, then step 11 would be write product descriptions and create product images. Step 10 might be export InDesign files as PDFs and JPEGs so that I can use the JPEGs in the product images. And yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. This is why you need to map things down on a piece of paper, because when you start writing it down on paper, like me just then, you're going to think, well, actually I need to do this next and that first, and and it's almost like having all of those post-it notes where you're writing the different steps down onto a post-it note and sort of ordering them in the right place so that you can have this action plan that's going to get you from point A to point B. But by defining your project scope first, so step 1, and having that goal that you're going to aim towards, that's where you can do step 2 and start working backwards. What would need to happen before that, and before that, and before that, until you get to where you are now with no product listed on your website, in my case. And whilst you're doing the action plan, you're going to begin to realize that, I need to have Photoshop. I need to make sure I've got InDesign. I'm going to need to make sure my laptop is fully working and is ready to rock and roll, got the battery charged, got batteries in my mouse. I'm going to need to section out this amount of time to update the inserts. I'm going to need whatever, you can begin to see all of the things that you're going to need at each of those steps, because you've thought about, okay, well, this is the action plan that's going to get me from point A to point B, and these are the tools and the resources and the things that are going to help me get from here to there. That's all part of creating your action plan. And once you've got that action plan, you can begin to think, well, how long are each of these things going to take me? How long is it going to take me to do this part of the action plan and this part? And you can begin to see, well, the deadline that I kind of had in mind at the beginning when I was maybe defining my project scope, that's maybe not realistic. Maybe I need to extend that time. And yeah, I would say it's really hard to set realistic deadlines, thanks to a little thing called the planning fallacy. I'm not going to go into it like a great deal in this video because it might become way too long, but essentially the planning fallacy is where we become, I guess, overly optimistic around what we can achieve when it comes to planning things and setting deadlines. So if you're not staying on track with certain deadlines that you'll set yourself, and you're kind of like me, you might start beating yourself up in terms of saying, oh, well, why haven't you got that done? Oh, you're not that clever then, whatever the internal dialogue may be. You can begin to sort of understand that actually you were just being optimistic and you didn't have anything to benchmark against. And that leads us to step 3, which is monitor your progress. If you've got your action plan and you know the steps that you're meant to be following, then not only does it make life much more easier when you step foot into your studio space, or you sit down in front of your computer, or whatever your job is, when you come to do the thing, not only having that plan is helpful, but having a way of monitoring it, like having the routine, takes away half of the what should I do today? What do I need to do? Like, I know what I need to do. I kind of had this loose idea, but now I'm not sure. Having your routine is like super handy, first off, but having a way to monitor your progress through that routine is really important as well, because that's where you can begin to see, are my deadlines realistic? Do I need to tweak things? I thought this part of the action plan, this particular task would take this long, but actually it's taken me way longer and I've overrun because of this, that and the other. If you're not monitoring your progress, you're not going to have that data, and data is the real important thing to avoid the planning fallacy of being overly optimistic. If you've got something to look back on and say, yes, in 2023, when I came to update my 2024 inserts, I thought it would take me this long to create my product mock-ups, but it actually took me this long because of these reasons. Then when you come to do your 2025 inserts, you've got that data to look at, and you can use that to help you set realistic deadlines and help you streamline your process of planning out your project. And finally, step 4, and it's kind of like step 3, but this is after the project is completed. And this is why I think that step 4 is one of the most important tasks or steps that's missed. I haven't really worded that right. I wanted to say it in a slightly better way. But yeah, it's like you get to the end of the project and it's completed, and you've got, for my example, my 2024 calendar inserts, monthly calendar inserts are updated and listed on my website. And it's very easy to be like, oh, well, job's done. I can go put my feet up. That's that project done and dusted. Whew. But actually, this is the most important part, where you want to review your project. You want to review, how did it go? Did you stick to the timescales that you put in place? Did you have to use certain services that you hadn't have thought of before? What were the sticking points? What went really well? What kind of fell over itself and caused a whole headache that you just hadn't anticipated? By having not only the monitoring your progress stage, but also reviewing the project on completion, it's just going to give you a lot more data to work with when you come to do your next project. And also it's going to point out areas where you may have not just room for improvement, but new things you want to try out. For me, I'm currently keeping an eye on what the AI stuff is doing on Canva and on Adobe Express, because I'm thinking maybe there's going to be something that I can use on one of those platforms that's going to help streamline my process when it comes to creating my product images. But then also on Shopify, they've just introduced a new AI feature that helps write the product descriptions. At the moment, I'm not so sure. But come next year, that might be something that's really advanced, and there might be other solutions out there. So at the start of my project, I might have a research and development stage where I look to see how has the AI progressed? Are there any tools out there? Are there any hot new tools, or are there any tools that have become, have matured, shall we say, that are worth now using? If I don't record that in my project review, I'm not going to remember it in 12 months' time when I come back to do my next set of inserts. For you, it may just be working on that next project. You may have spotted some services that you're like, yeah, that's really cool. I want to keep an eye on that for the next project. But if you haven't made a note of it, and maybe it's something you spotted at the start of your project that you didn't want to quite use yet because it wasn't quite right, by the time you get to the next project, you may have already forgotten about that. But if you have it written down in a review, then you're not going to forget these things. Just, keep everything written down whilst it's fresh in your head. Do that review on completion so that the next time you've got something to work from. But also, it's just making those small improvements that make you into a better person and a better creative. So I did say at the start that I may have a cheeky little cheat sheet that's going to be available. So I will pop a link to that in the description. It's just going over these steps again, probably less kind of word salady as I've been like ad-libbing in this episode, but it's just a checklist that's going to help you make sure you're doing the things that are going to help your project run smoothly. And if you need a little more help, a little more hand-holding, and you kind of want to follow my routine where it's a fill-in-the-blank scenario, then I will pop a link to my project planning insert in the description as well. You can check that out. You can tweak anything that you feel like, this step's maybe not quite right for me. Just make it your own, make it more applicable to your creative projects. And it's going to help you by guiding you through the process. And like I said, a bit of a fill in the blanks to just make life easier. Just like having a fill in the blanks is just, it makes life easier because you haven't got to think like, what should I do next? And what should I do next? And what do I need to think about? It's like, have you thought about this? What are you going to do here? What is this going to be? And just you get to answer questions, which is so much easier than trying to think up what the question should even be in the first place. This episode has been part of a series that I've already done over on Substack. It's a newsletter that you get to read. If you've got the Substack app, you can even have it read to you, which is kind of awesome when you're multitasking like me, doing the kids' packed lunches. I can listen to something whilst I'm doing it. I love that. So do go over and check out the Planning with Chloe Substack. I'll pop a link below. You can see you can get like a little sneak peek of the other videos that I'm going to record, which will be completely different from the written article because I do like to maybe waffle. I feel like I've got more liberty to waffle in my videos, whereas in my newsletter I'm like, cut out the waffle, people aren't going to get it because like it's not you speaking it and your personality is coming through. Now I'm waffling, so I'm going to stop and say goodbye. I'll catch you in this next video here, and I'm wishing you all the best in your creative project. You can do it, planner friend. Bye for now.